Hey everybody, and welcome to our second session on our theme of the month, which is the power of our subconscious mind. And today I'm going to be taking you through some thoughts, reflections, and questions, all on how reshaping our life through positive thinking can be of a huge benefit to really help us grow and help us move in the direction that we want. If you're tuned in, please say hi. Let me know you're here. Just going to get the comments up. Get ready to put some of your great thoughts, questions, examples up on the screen. So if you're here, let me know you're here. If you're watching the replay and you have any questions, just drop them in the comments box below and I'll get back to you. So today we're going to be looking at reshaping our lives through positive thinking, and I'm going to take you a little bit deeper than just positive affirmations. So if you've jumped in today thinking you're going to learn a bit about positive affirmations and how that works, we'll be touching upon that a little bit, but we're going to go deeper into how we can really reshape our lives through positive thinking and through different layers too. So Rosie, Priya's tuned in. Sorry, Priya, it comes up as Rosie on here. So Priya's tuned in, Sam's here, Adele's here. It's wonderful to see you all tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know who Canal is. Actually, I think that's Hannah. So hey everyone, it's Hannah. So we've got Hannah tuned in as Canal. Thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see you all tuned in. So I want to open up with, I don't know if anybody who's done it here, who's tuned in, who's done the challenge, but I want to bring us as an introduction into today's session to the challenge of the week, which was to ask you to think and reflect on something that you've lost in your life and how that has come back to you in another way. And I'll explain to you why I'm opening up with that and why it's important when we start to look at positive thinking and our subconscious mind. So let me know what it was. If you have done the challenge, share what it was that came to your mind when you were reflecting on what you've lost and how it came back to you. Share a little bit of a story. I'd love to bring that into this circle here. If you didn't do the challenge, now's your time to just have a think. Think about something you've lost, whether it's something small as a book or a piece of jewelry or some money, or if it's something huge like a relationship or a person. Think of something you've lost and think about how that's came back to you 360 in a different way. And this is going to nicely open up into the power of positive thinking. Paula and Frank are here. It's wonderful to see you both. Thank you so much for tuning in. So grateful for everybody being here. So what is it you've lost and how has this come back to you in a different way? So today's session might go a bit deep. I'm going to use a lot of analogies, a lot of thoughts, just to get us thinking. I'll give you a couple of moments. What have people lost? So it could be a couple of $100 maybe, or £100, some money that you might have lost and it's came back to you in a completely different way. You've earned that money later on in life, or it's come to you as a bit of a bonus check through your work at work. How's that come back to you? So whilst I'm waiting for your stories, I start to talk you through the reason why we're starting to think about this. So if anybody who's interested in the power of the subconscious mind and really want to take it deep and learn so much about it, there's a guy called Joseph Murphy who wrote a whole book on the power of the subconscious mind. He's got some talks out there. It's absolutely fantastic. I've been looking at some of his work over the past few weeks in preparation for this session and took a few little bits and bobs, some tips and a bit nuggets of wisdom from him, with a few other things that I've came along and added a bit of my own to it too. So Priya says, I did my challenge, I'm sharing what I had shared. Okay, so feel free to share it, Priya. Let us know what it is you lost and how that came back to you. Sometimes it takes some moments to really reflect on this and to go deep. So Hannah says, I've lost relationships. I'm going to bring these up on the screen. So Hannah says, I've lost relationships in my life. It's come back to me with characteristics and values I hold. I have learned lessons that have been of great value. That's absolutely fantastic, Hannah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's good that you can see that that's coming back to you. So whilst you've lost those relationships, the characteristics and values come back. But you also, on that point as well, is, you know, we lose relationships, but we gain relationships with the people. Those relationships come back to you maybe tenfold. Sam says, I lost my innocence. It was taken from me, but I gained self-love and respect later on in life. I love that, Sam. I love how deep you're going there, how you lost the innocence, but you gained self-love and respect, and how that came back to you. Priya says, firstly, thank you for this challenge. Just a few days ago, I was reflecting on this, and as personal as this is, I felt that how amazing it is that the universe works for us. Last year, my brother chose to break all relationships with me. Thank you so much for being open and sharing that, Priya. How did that come back to you? So you lost that relationship with your brother. How did that come back to you? So one of the things that Joseph Murphy talks about when he starts to introduce the power of the subconscious mind is the concept that every transaction in life is a transaction of the mind. Every transaction in life is a transaction of the mind. So when we lose something, if we tell ourselves that we've lost it, then we've lost it. But if we tell ourselves that this will come back to us all in divine order, then it's going to come back to us in a way, in a different way that the universe provides. And it's constantly ticking, it's a constant flow. We need to have our minds open enough to see that. So that was a reason for the challenge, to get you to think about that. So if we tell ourselves that we've lost it, we become attached to it, then we lose it. But if we start to realize that it's all part of a flow, it will naturally come back. And we can take this deeper. You can deep into, you know, the more we give, the more we receive, because the more we're putting out there, the more to come back. So the Lord, every transaction in life is a transaction of the mind. So it's just something deeply to think about, to open up today's thoughts. Just going a bit more into prayer. So prayer is someone I absolutely adore and love spending time on. Fun with it was difficult, but as time goes by, I began to heal. Thank you so much for being so open, prayer, and it's wonderful to hear that you've healed. So what was it that came back to you during that time? Let's see if you put it in this comment here. So, and there were only some missing out times together. One side of my life grew darker and darker. I didn't want to talk or get too close to anybody. Okay, so you're going real deep here. Thank you so much, prayer. I appreciate you for opening up in this space. But as time flew by, I needed that fun and loving space to share. And one afternoon, while taking a stroll in my area, sorry, I'm going to come back to everybody else. I'm just following Prayer's story here. From there on, I started to connect with her, and it's coming through fast. An angel came across my path. She was just 2, and how adorable. She said hello, just melted my heart. From there on, I started to connect with her and her other 2 siblings. I lost one, but got 3 in return. So grateful for the love I received from these amazing kids. That's absolutely amazing, Priya. That's a wonderful and beautiful story. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing that you lost that connection, but how you've got 3 in return and how you connect with them. And the universe and the transactions are always happening like that all the time. We're just not conscious enough to see that. We haven't got our minds open to see that. So I'm just going to bring in some more stories here. So Adele says, I've lost so many different things at various stages, from relationships to employment, and every time the best positives imaginable came from it. That's fantastic. In a way, what you're bringing to mind there, Adele, is when the universe closes one door, it opens another 10. We've just got to stop banging at that one door, turn around and look at what else is out there. This is some wonderful discussion and conversation, guys. Thank you so much for sharing this. Paul says, I lost my siblings but gained back self-esteem and a new family here in Coaching Minds. And Paula, thank you so much for being so open and sharing that, because I feel like some of us here can really resonate with this and connect with that, in the sense that some of us here have lost our families, or we've kind of pulled ourselves away from our families but gained a new family here together at Coaching Minds. And I've had those conversations with a few people that we have here. subconscious mind is a way to give us that love, that support, that help that we need, that we maybe didn't get in our earlier life. And this is the universe bringing it back, because we've opened our minds and we've opened our hearts to receiving it. So thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful. Some beautiful stuff coming through here. Zia Maharaj says, I lost my siblings' mother, but gained my own family connection with my kids and friends who became family. That's absolutely beautiful, Zia. Thank you so much for sharing that, and welcome here. I don't know, is that who's Zia? Is that you, Prashani? Just with Maharaj on the end? Or is it Ashmira? But thank you for sharing that, whoever that was. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. So yeah, just opening up with this, because Joseph Murphy uses this to go into the deep power of the subconscious mind, but also to look at the slight way in which we can look at things, and changing that perspective and the way we think or see things can really start to change us. Samantha says it's Prashani. Thank you for letting me know it's Prashani. It's fantastic. Zia is Prashani. Thank you. So yeah, where was I going there? Power of subconscious mind. So just changing that reflection, change the way we think and the way we see things. So when we lose something, don't get attached to the fact that we lost it. As soon as we tell ourselves that we've lost it, then we have. But as soon as we tell ourselves that it will come back to us in divine order, then one day it will come back to us. And Joseph Murphy, if we want to take a big quote from Joseph Murphy today, is whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious will magnify it. So Hannah gave you some facts yesterday on what our subconscious mind controls, what percentage, was 95% in there. Whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious magnifies it. So there's the importance of today's session as we lead into this, is whatever we feed our subconscious mind, whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious magnifies it. So it's very important that we be careful on what we feed our mind, because remember, our subconscious controls 95% of what we do on a daily basis. So what we're looking at today, some great stuff coming through here. If you've got any thoughts or questions or any of that, let me know before I go back. Adele says, losing my employment brought me to follow my passion and study. My relationship lost, I found myself and value and voice. That's absolutely beautiful, Adele. And you have found your value and voice. It's been in there all along. You've just opened your eyes to it. So thank you so much for sharing that, Adele. So moving on, so going on to positive thinking. So keeping that thought in mind in today's session, whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious magnifies it. So this is why we need to start to reshape the way we think and feed our mind with positivity. So what we are magnifying subconsciously is positive and it's not negative. And I just want to take you back to a bit of an analogy. So Hannah talked about in hers the difference between conscious and subconscious and how powerful the subconscious mind really is. And she talked about how we consume it between the ages, I think it was it 2 and 7 were the years in which we consume the most of our subconscious. So that's the time when everything's getting magnified in us, when we're taking in that information. And if we think of this as if everybody's born with an empty cup, okay, so when you use an analogy of a cup, thank you for quoting that, Hannah. Whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious mind magnifies it. That's fantastic. That was Joseph Murphy that said that in the Power of the Subconscious Mind book that he's written. It's a good read. I definitely recommend you, if you're interested in this topic and you want to learn more about the subconscious mind, then take a read of that book. We'll come back to analogy. So let's imagine we're all born with an empty cup, and as we go through life, we have people pouring their stuff into this cup. So the majority will come from our parents, from the family around us, from teachers, from friends, from everybody that we interact through childhood. And as we go through childhood, this cup starts to fill up. And in there, we could be getting people's coffee being poured into it, people's water, people's fruit juice, people's Coke, maybe some toxic poison being poured into our cup. And as we start to grow and we start to fill our subconscious mind, so let's think of our subconscious mind as this cup. We fill that up by what we hear, what we're taking and what we're consuming from other people. We're magnifying it and we're filling our cup. And once our cup becomes full, so that's how we start to react. So we're getting a bit of a taste of what our parents have, we're getting a bit of a taste of what our family have, those that we interact in our life, and we form this cup. And in order to start to really, sorry, I just clicked that accidentally. And in order to start to really change the way we are, to change the way we think, to change the way we grow, we need to start to empty that cup. It all starts with a process of emptying. So we've consumed so much in our subconscious from when we've grown up, from everybody around us, even from role models, influencers. We've built up this cup. And in order to really start to grow and change the way we think, we need to begin to empty this cup and remove whatever is in there. So even if so let's take the most toxic people that we've interacted with. There are toxic people out there. There are very negative people out there. They will have a full cup. And most of us have a full cup. And in order to start to taste the pure water, the positivity, we need to have an empty cup. We need to start to empty that cup to take it in. And it's all a process. So sometimes we might be emptying little bits out, putting pure water in. And then as we go on through life, we might be able to clean our cup completely, fill it with clear water, and something else comes along and somebody else pours a bit of toxicity in there because of what we encounter in life. But imagine it as a cup and the process of emptying. So everything starts with emptying this cup. Paul Adams says, well, going by the age, I pretty much had to pour everything out of my cup and learn how to fill it with self-love and respect. And this is where self-love and respect comes in, and filling it with positivity. Because all this is being fed into our subconscious mind. All at the same time, I had to be a wife and a mother. Paula, that's a lot to manage. It's a lot to manage, and you've coped. Look where you are today. It's absolutely fantastic. Priya says it's an ongoing process of clearing and refilling our cup to make room for what works better for us. It really is. But the first thing we need to understand is we need to empty our cup. We really need to remove that stuff that's been filled out in order to start to purify what it is that's in that. And toxic people, narcissists, they might walk around, they might hold a cup, they might hold on to the cup. It might be difficult for them to change because they've got such a full cup that they cannot actually take anything in. They don't want to accept that water. So if we imagine the positive stuff as being pure water, they don't accept that in their cup. They're walking around with a toxic cup and they're spilling it over onto other people. Remember, hurt people hurt people. And it's not to say that those can't change. It just might take something in life just to knock that cup over, something serious to happen in their lives to knock that cup over and start to accept. But the first part to changing the way we think and starting to reshape our life is starting to understand that we need to unlearn everything we've learned and start to relearn. Process of emptying and refilling. And we all do it in our own different ways. Some of us might get our cup knocked, emptied, spilled over, and then we have to start to refill it. Some of us might just decide to chuck the whole cup out. Some of us might have already have a good cup. You know, the surroundings and the stuff that we've been fed has been positive, so our cups might be great already. And then some bits of toxic, so we just have to dilute it and take out some bits of toxic that have come out on the way, or just keep it refilled with positivity. So I just wanted to put this in an analogy of the different processes we could take and the importance of making sure that we do remove that negativity from our subconscious mind. When we start to think that, when we start to visualize that cup, we can also take the concept that we are not that cup. We are not the thoughts. We are not whatever is being fed into that. That isn't us. That's just what we hold inside of us because of what we've consumed. Question from Sam: do we empty our cup with a positive mindset and positive thoughts? So it's just a process. It's you can look at that if you want, Sam, but I'm just talking about the process of emptying that negativity, emptying that toxicity, just removing that cup and filling it. So if we fill it with positive mindset, with positive thoughts, that's what we start to fill it up with. We need to empty it with the toxicity, with the negative stuff that we've been fed, in order to have room for the positive stuff. And I think it was Bruce Lee said something along the lines of, first you must empty your cup. If you don't empty your cup, how can you taste my tea? So how can you listen to anything that he wants to give you or take any of his tips and advice if you have a cup that is full yourself? So let's start off with the process of emptying, and that we are not this cup. So if we can visualize this, we understand that we're not our thoughts. So whatever is contained in this, whatever your cup looks like, that's not you. It's just what your subconscious is being fed. So your cup might look pure, clear water right now, or it might have a bit of darkness in it, might have a bit of toxicity in it, it might have a lot of negative thoughts. But the concept is just to give you an analogy to kind of disassociate yourself with your thoughts. Priya says, I think if positivity is working for us, then there's no need to empty it. Correct. Definitely. If we've got it, and that's what I mean, if we've got a full cup that's clear and pure, and we've been fed with lots of positivity as we've grown up, and our subconscious mind and our actions that we take are always positive because our subconscious is being fed with positivity, then there's no need to empty that. So this is just giving you an analogy to start to remove, and imagine we're trying to get this cup that you have, we're trying to purify it, we're trying to make it clear. Trying to clean out the muck that has been fed to us by other people and fill it with pure, clear water. Poems, I had to throw up all the shitty stuff, so I thank you for sharing that. Sometimes that's what we need to do. We need to just get rid of that. Because I'm going to use another analogy in a minute to go into some tips. I want to share 3 tips at different levels to go a little bit deeper on this, and ways in which we can start to take practical approach to reprogramming our subconscious mind. And I'm not going to go deep into NLP. I'm trying to keep it real with real analogies. And for those of you who don't know what NLP is, it's neuro-linguistic programming. There's a whole program you can look into, lots of materials on that, on kind of rewiring and restructuring who we are and our thoughts. But I don't want to go deep into that. I want to try and keep it high level with some analogies that everybody can relate to, but also goes with some deep I want to bring in some principles and practical tips too. So remember that we're not this cup, and it's a case of purifying the water that is in this cup of what we've been fed. Priya says, Priya, not Priya. Prashant says, I think it is so valid that we give ourselves permission to make the change that is best for us. Definitely, Prashani. Definitely. So I don't want to go off piste a bit here in terms of changing that direction. I want to keep it all to reshaping through positive thinking. So using that analogy, I want us to think of the cup, what we've been fed. The darker it is, the more negativity we have in our subconscious. The clearer it is, the more positivity we have in our conscious. And it's a case of taking out the dark stuff and filling it with the light stuff, and keeping our cup positive and using that as our thoughts. Because we are not that cup, but we do drink from that cup. And when we drink from that cup, it'll determine how we act. Poems can fill it with positive thoughts, and I continue to refine my definition of love and care for myself. I love that, Paula. So that's what we're doing, about filling this cup. So if you like that analogy, today's session is all about how we fill that cup with positive thoughts, and looking at ways in which you can fill that cup with positive thoughts and empty it of negative thoughts. So thank you for sharing that, Paul. That's wonderful. Prashani says, that's so important to realize that we are not this cup. It really is. It really is. And that's why I want to give that analogy, because sometimes it'd be hard to explain to people, that when you say you're not your thoughts, because we get confused. You are not your thoughts, but our thoughts become our reality. When you look at that, so well, if I'm not my thoughts, then how do the thoughts become real? And it's because we act on those thoughts. It's our actions behind those thoughts that make it a reality. So the next analogy I want to use, moving into the practical tips. So if you like that cup analogy, keep a hold of that cup. And it's a process of getting rid of that darkness and filling it up with pure water to really get to where we want to be. But remember, when we drink from that cup, it determines how we act. So the next idea I want to bring into the space and for us to think about is that essentially our thoughts are a catalogue for our actions. Our thoughts are a catalogue for our actions, and the ones that we take hold of are going to be the ones that determine whether we do or do not do something. So I'll say that again. Our thoughts are a catalogue for our actions, and the ones that we take hold of, the ones that we grab hold of, will determine whether we do or do not do something. Hannah says, when the cup has been filled by nasty people over and over, it's like the liquid gets so sticky, which makes it hard to remove from the cup. And it can be really hard to remove from the cup. If it's sticky, toxic stuff, we might need to give that cup a real empty, a real good clean to really get it out. Or we knock, it's sometimes it's difficult, and it's understanding. Using this cup analogy, the question I want to ask is, where's your cup at right now? What does your cup look like? When you visualize that cup, is it filled with lots of negative thoughts? Is it black? Is it sticky? Is it toxic? Is it pure? Have you done enough work on yourself and enough kind of bringing into the positive thoughts and that positive way of thinking that it looks pure? It's a clear cup. What is it that you're drinking from right now? Or using the catalogue analogy, what are you picking from? What does your catalogue look like? Your thought catalogue, and what thoughts are you constantly picking from there on a daily basis? Adele says, I dealt with the negative energy by forgiveness, changing perspective on situations, and replacing with positivity. I love that, Adele. Forgiveness is a big tip and a big key, and that's a topic on its own, but it's great that you learned the powers of forgiveness to let go of that negativity. And I suppose when we use the cup analogy, when we don't forgive, all we're doing is keeping that toxicity and everything in that cup. It's like we're telling them when we don't want to forgive people or people that have hurt us or whatever's in there, it's like we don't want to let it go. We don't want to go through that process of removing it. And forgiveness helps us empty. So thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely wonderful, Adele. So always finding new ways to clean my thoughts up and keeping the great things about me. I love that, Paula. And you're going to come on to something I'm going to talk about in terms of the tips. So this is absolutely fantastic. I love the thoughts and everything, what everyone's bringing in here. Hannah says, through determination and positive thoughts, it's possible to remove any liquid in it. Yes, it is. When you're getting just consumed and people are throwing positivity in it, you can just wash all of that dirt that you've got in there, all those negative thoughts out of it. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit with some more analogies. Priya says our thoughts are a catalogue. So thank you for captioning that. I love that. You're welcome. Thank you. So with that analogy, so whether you can use the cup analogy or whether you can use the catalogue analogy, again, you are not your catalogue of thoughts. So each day you've got a catalogue of thoughts. This catalogue is your subconscious mind, and you have a list of thoughts in that subconscious mind that go through your mind on a daily basis. As Hannah mentioned in the last one, that controls 95% of your brain. And we consciously pick thoughts out. And the thoughts that we pick out will determine how we act, whether we do or do not do something. So for example, if we use a practical example, if you've got a negative catalogue that's just full of negative thoughts and negative thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I cannot do anything, I'll never achieve it, I'm a failure. If you have a catalogue of that, then what options do you have to choose from? You have to choose from a list of negative thoughts. And what we do is when an opportunity is presented to us through the universe, if you're deep, or just through life, we take one of the thoughts from our catalogue, and if all the catalogue's negative, it's going to stop us from taking action towards that opportunity. You might get a job, you might get an offer for a promotion. There might be a job coming up for a promotion at work. There might be someone that you like that you want to ask out on a date. There might be an opportunity for you to step up and enhance your business. And when you decide to take that action, you go to your catalogue of thoughts, and if it's negative, I can't do this, I'll not be good enough, I'll not be good enough for that promotion, I'll not take it. So you decide, you pull that and you step into action. You decide not to apply for that job, or you decide not to take that opportunity, or you decide not to ask that guy or girl on a date, because we have a negative catalogue of thoughts. And we use that catalogue of thoughts to take action. Samantha says we also have to forgive ourselves. Yeah, forgiveness is so important. It really is. I'm not going to go deep into forgiveness today. We're just looking at ways in which we can start to think positively and start to change our negative thinking into positive thinking. And the reason why I'm bringing in this actions side of things as well is because ultimately we want to think positive so we can step forward in life and we can take positive action. Positive thoughts, positive action. Pause, because I'm not defined by the shit that was in my cup. I can empty that cup and fill it with wonder, love, self-respect, gain respect, and friendship and compassion towards others that has helped. Completely, Paula. Absolutely, completely. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And you've just chucked that shit out your cup. You've got rid of it, you've cleansed it, and now you're filling it up with so much positivity, so much love, and it's wonderful to see. So what does your catalogue of thoughts look like, or what does your cup look like? So that's the first thought that I want you to think about. Where are you at on your journey right now? Is your catalogue full of negative thoughts? Is your catalogue full of a mix of negative thoughts and positive thoughts? Is your cup, if you're on the cup analogy, if that resonates with you better, is it pure? Is it clear? Is it cloudy maybe, and you just got to do a little bit of work? Or is it real dark and toxic that you need to, you really are talking to yourself or treating yourself in a negative way because of what is being ingrained on you through other people? And that's become part of your subconscious. So how this relates to the subconscious mind is the more we feed, we'll go into this in a bit, the more we feed this, it becomes, going back to the quote of today by Joseph Murphy, whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious magnifies it. So the more we feed our mind with positive stuff, the more we start to understand this, what we're talking about today, the more we feed it with positivity, the more it's going to become part of our subconscious mind. And it'll come to the third part I'm going to talk about today. We're going to look a bit about Zen and the art of archery. I'm going to bring into a little bit of an analogy on that. Sam says, so ultimately our actions become negative and we end up in a continuous cycle that does not benefit us at all. Exactly, Sam. That is a wonderful way of putting it. And that's how our thoughts become a reality. So we're not our thoughts because we have a choice. We have that catalogue, we have that cup, and we choose what we want to act on based on that catalogue or that cup or what we drink. And if it's filled with negativity, we're going to use it to make negative actions. If it's filled with positivity, we're going to use it to make positive action. And it's the action that brings what's in our mind to reality. So it all starts with our thoughts and that catalogue. So the first tip, if you're new to this, and this brings in the positive affirmation side of things, is think about your catalogue. Okay, maybe write this down, make your catalogue something real, get yourself a journal. This is where the power of journaling comes into it. Whatever it is, a piece of paper, if you like to work on your iPad, you want to type it up in Word, just think about what your catalogue looks like. What are the negative thoughts that come into your mind every day? What are the positive thoughts that come into your mind every day? And maybe you want to have it split your catalogue into sections, so negative thoughts and positive thoughts that come in your mind. And then when you've got it on paper, how do you think? Then think, how do I write? These are the negative ones. How do I remove this? How do I make my catalogue more positive? And this is where you can go deep into start to think of some positive affirmations that you can put in there, ones that you want to replace. And by just visualizing it and having it in front of you, you'll start to change the way you think. And this is the power of affirmations. And you can go into this, you can do your mirror work, you can have your affirmations scattered everywhere, because the more you see it, the more you feel it, the more you take action to feel it, the more it ingrains into your subconscious, the more it becomes so much simpler to become a reality. Adele says, that Sam, forgiving yourself is the best starting point. I started with myself. That's wonderful. It's good that you started at that point, Adele. It is a really good starting point to empty your cup. And you remember, we're all different. Sometimes forgiveness is a good starting point for us. Sometimes gratitude is a good starting point for us. It depends where we're on our journey and how it works for us. But it's absolutely wonderful that you're sharing that. Thank you, Adele. So what does your catalogue of thoughts look like? Remember, our thoughts are a catalogue for our actions. The ones that we grab hold of will determine whether we do or do not do something. So it's important that we have the majority of our catalogue, what's going on in our mind, as being positive. And that's not to say that negative thoughts won't pop in there. We can't control what enters our mind, but we can control how we manage that. But this is where you need to determine where you're at. So if you have a negative catalogue, if your catalogue is full of negative thoughts, then you need to start to think of ways in which you can start to remove them out of your catalogue. Like I said, take a journal, a piece of paper, do it on a Word document, do it on your iPad, do it whatever it is that works for you on your phone, and start to list those negative, what your thought catalogue looks like. List them down. If they're all negative, then you need to start to work on how you get rid of them and feed in positive affirmations, and then find out how the best way for positive affirmations to help you take that in. If you've got a mix of the two, then I'm going to take you to the next stage, something else for you to think of. So there's 3 stages I'm going to go into here. So the first one is the positive affirmations, that catalog, and start to understand what your catalog looks like. And then going deeper, I'm just going to bring in some more comments before going to the next stage. So Paula says, let me give back information that I can share with others and inspire them to empty out their own cup too. Exactly, Paula. And that's such an important point to mention. When we have our cup, we can pour from that cup. When our cup's pure, we are giving other people purity too. If our cup's full of toxicity, then what we're pouring into other people's cups is toxicity. So we've got to remember that our actions also play. Using that cup analogy, our actions will give whatever we hold in, we will feed to other people too. So thank you for raising that. Such a good point. Priya says, our constant thoughts become our actions, even we don't realize. That's why reflection or journaling is key to help us snip out the negatives and replace it. Okay, yeah, definitely, Priya, and it's so important to mention that. And it was Mahatma Gandhi, and it's a long quote where it starts with positive thoughts. Our thoughts lead to our actions lead to our habits lead to our reality. And it's such a powerful quote. I'll post the full quote into the group. I can't remember it off by heart, but it works from actions to reality. Thoughts to reality, and how our thoughts shape everything that we do. Paul says, my cup is full of laughter to my ears and clarity for my eyes and good nutrition for body. That's absolutely wonderful. It's beautiful that you have a full, pure cup. For example, my last night during the 5th day of gratitude, I found I was writing a whole 2-page poem for my book. That's amazing. That's absolutely wonderful. You're just overflowing with purity, Paula, and you're emptying that into other people's cups, which is absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing this. Ishpreet, it's great to see you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there's one thing I stand by, it's affirmations, really. Such an amazing way to bend the subconscious mind. It really is. Thank you for sharing that, Ishpreet. Affirmations are so powerful. But what I found on my personal journey and also talking to others is sometimes people struggle with affirmations. We can write things, we can put things on a wall, we can start to put down, but if we really struggle to believe it, we really start to feel those affirmations. And it's because we don't take actions towards it. Going back to our thoughts being a catalogue for our actions, if we have them, we need to have them ingrained there, and we need to choose them. We need to pick those affirmations to take the action that we want. So this is where we're going to the next point. If you have a mix of positive thoughts and negative thoughts that run through your brain every day, through your mind every day, maybe at a 50-50, 60-40, you have got positive thoughts in there, the next point is you need to choose to use them. So when you get an opportunity, when a promotion comes up at work, when a career opportunity presents itself, when the moment of love is there and you can reach out, whatever it is you want, when the universe presents you with that opportunity, you choose to grab onto the positive thought to take that action, not the negative. Adele Jacobs, constant work on maintaining the cup. Awareness of what I'm filling my cup is my key. Negative thoughts are immediately changed to positive. And you're coming on to something, Adele. This is you're at that 3rd level. I'm going to go into a 3rd level soon, and we're going to come back to that. So remind me to come back to your point, because that's amazing that you just do it immediately and you've changed as positive. It's fantastic. You have a way of just seeing the positive like that, and it makes you so unique in who you are, Del. It's absolutely fantastic. Meditation and reading and positive movies is a great help. I also try and share something positive or laugh every day. Adele, you need to step up and do this live. I'm going to come on to some of the stuff in a bit. It's absolutely fantastic. See what else we've got here. Importance is to be aware what we read, watch, and listen to. Negative media has a strong influence. Exactly. So it doesn't have to come from people who are close to us, from our friends, our family, our parents, our teachers, the people we interact with at school, but also the media can put toxicity in our cup. It can start to put stuff we don't want in there and start to darken our cup and not keep it purified. And that's one thing to notice. It's not, once we've done this, once we've cleaned our cup, it doesn't stop there. It's not a case of emptying our cup with all toxicity, all the negative stuff, filling it with positive stuff, and then Bob's your uncle, you've got it for life. It's a constant process. And to take that next level, so this is if you've got a full catalogue of positive thoughts, then you need to understand the importance of the process behind that. It's the process that matters. When you become in flow with the process rather than the actual end result, you can keep that cup clear. Because one day when you're caught off guard, you forgot about the process, you've got your clear cup, someone may come along and just pour in a heap of shit into there and just turn your life around. So be aware, as Adele's mentioned earlier on, constantly be meditating, constantly having those good habits, those good practices keeps your cup clear. And you need to keep it clear even when you've already got to that stage. It's a never-ending journey. It's a constant process. Ishpreet says exactly. Some people use repetition to even help themselves believe in them. Repetition is the key, I feel. Repetition is, we need to ingrain that into our mind. So this is moving things from, so we've become consciously aware that our thinking is our issue, and it's moving that and bringing that into our subconscious. Going back to what we opened up to, whatever we feed our mind, our subconscious magnifies. So the more we are repetitive, the more we put in these positive thoughts, the more we take action towards these positive thoughts, the more it becomes automatic, the more it becomes part of our subconscious mind, and we can use the power of our subconscious mind for the greater good, and we can do things, positive actions. Like Adele says, she sees the positive straight away. You take the positive thought that's in there over the negative one straight away. So if you are struggling with positive affirmations, I just want to introduce another tip before I share some other great stuff that's coming in here, is we don't necessarily, so I'm open for someone to challenge me on this or share their perspective, but from my own learning, from my own perspective, is we don't actually associate ourselves with our thoughts. So we might become attached to our thoughts, we might start to use or believe more thoughts than others, but we actually only associate ourselves with one small letter. Can anybody guess what that letter is? What is the one letter that we associate ourselves with? What is the one letter that we associate ourselves with? One small letter. So I'm not sure if any of you are getting this and you put it through, but that small letter that we associate ourselves with is the letter I. And when we plug that letter I into these affirmations or into these negative thoughts, Paul Adams has got it there, she's put I, then we believe that that becomes part of us. Sorry, Paul, I think there was a bit of a lag there. Aye, Captain. Sorry, you put it through twice there. But 3 times, 4 times, fantastic. Thank you. I think it's a little bit of a lag, but yeah, we associate ourselves with that letter I. And then we plug that letter I into these thoughts. So if you're struggling with positive affirmations, if you're writing them down, if you're putting them on your wall, if you're putting them on your fridge, if you're making them visible, if you're jotting them down every day, but somehow it's just not resonating with you, you're not feeling it, you still choose the negative, then a little suggestion, a little bit of tip that I would suggest to use is to take some time to reflect, to contemplate, maybe meditate on the word I and the nature of I and what you've associated to that letter about yourself. What does I mean to me? Who is I? That sounded like an Ali G impression there, but who is you? But ask yourself, I. When we start to look at the nature and what we've associated with, it might help us just change when we plug that word into things and help us start to believe the power of those words a little bit more. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a little bit deep. And I honestly think there's so much power in reflection and contemplative learning and just sitting there thinking about what does I mean for me? What is it I'm attaching to this word I? One, it helps us understand, again, if you're struggling to understand that you're not your thoughts, you aren't this letter I, you're attaching yourself or associating yourself with this letter I and you're plugging it into your thoughts, then that can help you get deeper and understand too. But also it starts to help us understand the importance of just changing the way we see ourselves. It's a different approach to changing the way we see ourselves. Does that make sense? So Poem says, I am me, and me is love, acceptance, strength, and openness. I love that, Paula. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's absolutely beautiful. But just take that away, do some reflection, do some contemplating on that I, and almost detach yourself from it. See what comes to you in a meditation when you think of it. Ishpreet says yes. Thank you, Ishpreet. I'm glad this is resonating with you and it's making sense. Okay, so we talked about the catalogue, changing that with positive affirmations, making sure the catalogue's positive because we've got a positive catalogue, we've got more options to choose positive thoughts, which will lead to positive action and help us really step and move forward. If we've got a mix of the two, then we need to start look at ways in which we can feel and start to really believe and make sure we choose the positive over the negative. So we've got a 50-50 balance, but it is important to understand what that catalogue looks like. And that's the power of journaling. So get it jotted down, get a list of what the trend of thoughts that go through your mind do. And you can even go deeper into thinking about, okay, let's look at past situations. When has an opportunity presented itself that I haven't taken action towards because I listened to my negative thinking? And sometimes that can open up an aha moment for everybody, because sometimes you could sit there and say, right, well, I had a job opportunity, I didn't go for this interview, I didn't go for that interview, I didn't ask this person out, I didn't move into this property, I didn't do this for this person, I didn't do this. And then you start to realize, well, what was it? Because of this thought, this thought, this thought. Look at the power that these negative thoughts are having on my life. I need to change these. And we start to understand the real importance of it, we can really start to change it. So you can go deep with this thought that our thoughts are a catalogue for actions. You can go real deep into it. Okay, so if you're at a level now where you feel like, so Adele, you're good at grabbing the positive, you're a really good example of this next kind of third layer that I'm going into. So you might be sat there thinking, I've got a positive catalogue. I'm choosing positivity. I'm moving in the right direction. It's absolutely fantastic, which is great. It's good. So how do we keep this? So if you're at that level, how do we keep it at that level? So when something comes along, something negative hits in life, you're not going to let your cup be filled with a load of terrible stuff, or you're not going to let your catalogue refill with negative thoughts. So how do we start to master this clear cup, this positive catalogue, to make sure that we are constantly in that flow of being positive, of always choosing the positive and making it happen? It comes into our subconscious to the point where we don't even have to think about it. So we don't have to consciously think. We're presented with negative and positive. We don't have to consciously think about which one we choose. We just automatically go to the positive. So how do we get to that level? How do we get to that kind of self-mastery of constantly being positive? Because we do need to understand that you can never be a completely positive person. There will always be negative thoughts that enter your mind. And if there isn't, and you're not seeing any negativity in the world, then you've led into a path of ignorance. Because negative and positivity exist because of each other. And if we've just completely blanked out negativity and we think everything is positive, then we are living blindsided in life. So we need to understand that there will always be negativity. Life will always throw stuff at us. And when we get in the position, we've mastered how to manage it effectively, subconsciously, because of the work we put in, because of how positive we are, and because it's in our subconscious, we'll be able to flow through life so much better. And what I want to do to introduce this thought of starting to move it into that subconscious, how to really master it if you do have this positive, but you still feel like you're having to consciously choose it. I want you to think, and it comes from a book called Zen in the Art of Archery. So I'm going to bring up some comments here before we go into this book. Just hold that thought. So we're going to go into Zen in the Art of Archery. So I'm going to bring in a little principle from archery and Zen. We've put that up. Thank you, Paula. That's absolutely wonderful. I brought that up before. Did I bring this one up before? Sorry. So what it's brought up to me is that I can clearly see the old ways I've thought and realize how I don't even think that way anymore. That's beautiful realization. That's absolutely beautiful, Paula. Honestly, the progress you're making is just outstanding. It really is. Sam says, wow, one word, enlightened. Thank you so much, Sam. Priya says, what ifs are one of the biggest blockers that is stopping us from refilling or taking action? They definitely are. That's just so that's in times of uncertainty. So it's rephrasing the way we look at things. You can go real deep. So when you go deep into restructuring your positive and your negative thoughts catalog, sometimes it's just changing little words like what if to what is. Sam says, so true, Priya. It is. Ishpreet, thank you so much for sharing this wisdom. This could change lives. Thank you, Ishpreet. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. So grateful. It's so true, Priya. It really is. Hannah says, we need to present and aware through repetition. We have to work on this daily, even things are at their best. So that's great. We do. Repetition, we need to get there. So this is where I'm going to introduce that art. So we've got a positive thought catalog. We're consciously choosing to be positive. We want to get it into our subconscious through repetition. Okay, but this to many can become an impossible challenge. So the concept I want to bring from the book Zen in the Art of Archery is how do we get to a stage to where we act and decide at exactly the same time. So think about an archer. When an archer pulls a bowstring, to be a skilled and mastered archer, you have to shoot before thinking, or shoot and think simultaneously at the same time. Because if you're 1 second out, if you think 1 second before, then you're off target, you've missed. And you can take this analogy to any technique or anything that you practice. Think of sports. Think about the basketball player that's taking the jump shot. Think about the football player or the soccer player, and I've got a few Americans here, that's taking the penalty kick. Think about the golfer that's taking that chip shot. If you want to master these skills, it's about acting and thinking at exactly the same time. And when we learn to do that, it becomes automatic. It is built into our subconscious. Is this resonating with everybody? It does. It takes work and awareness. Negative thought, you need to stop, deal with it, and see the positive perspective. It does take work and awareness, and I want to bring in to something else that it really contains. So how many people are tried and tried and tried and tried, but still feel like they're not getting anywhere with whatever it is they're trying to learn, whatever it is they're trying to master? It seems like an impossible challenge. At what point does it just happen naturally? At what point do we reach that stage where we act and decide at the same time? And how does this relate? So we're talking about archery, we're talking about basketball, we're talking about golf, we're talking about jump shots, we're talking about these techniques. How does it relate to positive thinking? Bringing it back to what we've been talking about, how do we act? How do we choose that positive thought and act on it at exactly the same time? How do we master that? Practice, surrounding ourselves, as Adele mentioned earlier on, surround ourselves by positivity, positive media, positive people, consuming positive knowledge, consuming so much, meditating, having these good habits, hitting them day in, day out. But at what point does it actually become automatic? Think about when maybe you were learning to ride a bike as a kid, or you were learning to swim, or when you learned to drive the car. At what point did it become automatic? To the point where you don't have to think about it anymore. That's the stage we really want to get to with our positive thinking. Frank Adams says it requires presence. But it does, Frank. It requires presence. But my question is, that is presence consciousness or subconsciousness? Are we always present when we're driving a car? It's a good thought. It does require an element of presence. But at what point, when you were learning to ride a bike or you were learning to swim, did it just come naturally? To the point now where you can jump on a bike and you don't have to think about it. You remember driving as a kid, you had to have the stabilizers on, you took the stabilizers off and you'd fall all the time, you'd go for about 30 seconds, you'd fall off, you'd try and you'd try. At what point did it just happen where you just do it now without even thinking about it? The same with a car. How many people actually are fully present and conscious in a car when you're driving? At what point, through all the fears that you had, at what point did that become automatic in your subconscious? Paula says, sometimes it makes all of you to validate my need to feel relevant and on track with positivity, using you all as a sounding board. And that's wonderful, Paula. And that's what we should all be doing, is using that not to validate you, but to use it to feed you with that positivity that you need to keep. And this is such power in the community that we have and the people that we have here and the love and the support, because we help feed each other's cup with positivity. We really do. So thank you so much, Paula, for sharing that. But going back to the question, at what point, and this is just for you to think about, this is the deep level, this is the third level. I like to start off at high level and then really go beyond that surface and start to get deep. But I really want us to think it. So we want to make these positive thoughts to the point like it's like riding a bike. We can still fall off a bike. There's still the risk of all that. There's still the same risks that were there, but we're not worried about. We just do it. We take it all and we just do it. So how do we start to make positive thinking like riding a bike? And at what point will that come to us? Adele says, when you aligned with your mind, conscious and subconscious. I like that. So I'm going to bring in the concept. Paul says, yes, feed me good food because I love to eat. We will feed you some good food when we get to meet in person, definitely. But we feed you good mind food at the moment. But we'll definitely we'll all share some good physical, proper food when we get to meet up. And I cannot wait for that. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Okay, so what do we think? At what point? So I hope you're thinking deep on this. But looking at the concept, so I talk about this in a few places. If you're, I'm not going to go there, but I definitely talk about this in a few places. And it's the concept of wu-wei. So to master something, to really build it into your subconscious, it's fully understanding, it's fully reaching that point of wu-wei, which is action and non-action at the same time. That jump shot, the basketball players trying to move, that letting go of arch and hitting without thinking and acting simultaneously, it comes at the point when we let go. When we hit that point where we think, I'm never going to be able to ride this bike, I'm never going to be able to do it, and we stop giving it so much thought. That moment when we just step back and we let go and we relax, maybe enter into a state of presence, like Frank was saying, is the moment when it starts to become automatic. we've hit it so much, we've done it so many times, but we're still thinking that we need to do it. We're still letting our mind get in the way. And it's the point when they both hit and meet that we let go and master at the same time, that it just becomes automatic. There's a thought of non-action. There's this concept that we need to step away from. This is deep, but I hope it makes sense. Paul says, laughter is a way of healing my heart, mind, and soul. It really is. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am aware of myself. That's a wonderful. Thank you so much, Paula. So if you're constantly, what I'd like you to do is you're constantly, this third level, is if you're constantly hitting your positive thinking, if you're constantly consciously choosing to be positive all the time, just let go of it and let it become a natural, automatic thing. Practice that art of acting and non-acting at the same time and letting things just flow. And that does come, like Hannah said earlier on, it comes from that repetition, and we get to the point, because what we really reach, if we want to go deep, I'm not going to go really into there, but that want and that repetition is through the power of will. And what will is attached to is our ego. And the moment that we start to step back, either we say we can't do this or we'll never do this, or we just step back from trying, it naturally happens because we've let go of that illusion of ego. We've let go of that illusion of our ego, which we've attached to our will. And then it becomes natural. We move into that state of where we stop trying and we're just doing. Quite deep. I hope it makes sense. And I'm happy to have a conversation. I've gone on for over an hour here, but I'm happy to have a conversation about illusion, ego, and the art of wu-wei in a little bit more detail for anybody that wants to. But I just want to say thank you, everybody who's tuned in. If you do have any questions or thoughts, if that kind of did make some sense at some element, just try and relate it to riding a bike, swimming, and really go deep into thinking at what stage, when I was learning to swim or learn to ride a bike or learn to drive a car, did it just become automatic where I can get in and just do it? And you'll find that it's the moment you let go of it. You let go of all the trying and just say, do it. Adele says, I did a tool on letting go in the course I did. That's wonderful. It'd be good to have a discussion about that, Adele, and that tool. Maybe we can start to share it. Prayer says, thank you so much, Paul, and everyone. This is so valuable. No, thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, your energy, your love, your passion. You honestly make this what it is. And if you guys weren't here sharing everything today, it wouldn't shape the session. So thank you, everybody. I want to wish you all an absolutely amazing week ahead. We have a fantastic session lined up next week with Ishpreet. So Ishpreet's going to be taking the stage, or the StreamYard stage, we call it, on looking at confidence and the power of our subconscious, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. So stay tuned for that next Sunday. We've got another great webinar next week where we're going to look at our visions through our page. If you want, you can now, we've now put the events, so you can access our webinars through the community, so you don't have to go through Facebook to join our webinar. You can do it through our community. You've probably seen the new features. We've got a new calendar view now in the event section, which will make it so much easier for you to grab the calendar and see what's coming ahead. Every month we'll have a new live meditation, which will be coming this week too. Guided meditation that we're coming through this week. And there's lots of changes and lots of things that are coming forward this week. So keep an eye out for everything. Keep an eye on the events section, and we'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on. But thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly I see Frank's got a good point here. I walk down a flight of steps every day. I notice if I'm not on the steps and going down and start thinking about it, I sometimes actually stumble. But how many times do I go down without thinking? Exactly, Frank. That is a great example. How much in this day and age as well, in these modern times in 2020, we are so much in our head that we're actually doing a lot of things subconsciously without thinking about it. We'll be sat there thinking about other things when we're cooking, when we're doing whatever. We spend so much time in our heads, and we do things subconsciously. So how do we feed what we do subconsciously to make it positive. That's a lovely point to end on. A lovely analogy, Franks. Thank you so much for that. Sending you all lots of love, and I'll catch up with you all through